Hello again, everybody. This is Comic Book Hangover. It is Friday, which means it's time for my Full Run Friday video. Let me move this over here real quick. Hopefully you'll be able to hear me a little bit better. Now, this week I'm continuing my Halloween-themed Full Run Fridays, where I'm going to be going through horror-themed collections that I have in my or horror-themed runs, rather, that I have in my collection. Last week was the Clive Barker books, Hellraiser, Nightbreed, and some of the attached series that went along with those. This week is going to be another Marvel run, but it's going to be Morbius the Living Vampire, who did have a series back in the 90s as part of the Midnight Suns. His first appearance was, and this is just the True Believer reprint, Amazing Spider-Man number 101 from the original Spider-Man run. Let me get a good shot there. There you go. This was also when Spidey, in the previous issue, number 100, he tried to cure himself being Spider-Man, and he created the serum. He took the serum, and at the end, he grew extra arms. So this is the first cover appearance of Spider-Man with multiple arms. It's also the first cover appearance and first appearance of Morbius, the Living Vampire, who, of course, is Michael Morbius. He's a scientist who has a rare blood disorder, and he spent his entire life trying to find a cure for this blood disorder, and nothing worked. And then he decided to try the blood of vampire bats. And of course, since this is comic books, things go wrong, and he ends up with some of the attributes of a vampire, where he has the desire to drink blood. He has a slight aversion to sunlight, but stuff like garlic and crosses, those sort of things don't work on him because he's a living vampire. He's not really a supernatural character per se, though he has the look of it. And he's kind of a scientific vampire, I guess you could say, since it was science that created him, which is why he doesn't have the weaknesses of a vampire, but he has some of the desires, I guess, with the drinking of the blood, and some of the aversions, like the aversion to sunlight, which could also be from the vampire bats, because bats prefer to be out at night as opposed to during the day. So, again, this is a first appearance. Now, this also brings up a question. I have a whole load of these True Believers reprints, close to 200, I think 180 something of these things. This would make a good full run Friday, I think, if anybody would be interested in checking out how I do my True Believers, which I love True Believers so much. But if anybody's interested, I may do this as a full run Friday. I don't have all of them. I don't have nowhere near all of them, but I do have quite a few, and I keep mine in a collection. The way that I have them organized is a little bit different, I think, than what most people do with their True Believers books. But be that as it may, let's flip this camera around and dig into my Morbius comics. All right, here we go. Now, of course, this Morbius series started as part of the Rise of the Midnight Suns family of books, and it ran from September 1992 to April 1995. So it had a pretty good run for, sort of a really niche character. He really wasn't. He was a popular character, but after his first appearance in Amazing Spider-Man 101, he would make sporadic appearances, in various books, usually horror-themed books like Adventures into Fear and Vampiric Tales or Vampire Tales, whatever it was called. But he would eventually get graduated into his own series, again, as part of the Rise of the Midnight Suns. Now, this series, it started with, he was part 3 of 6. Mine is still polybagged. Each of these issues came polybagged with part of a poster that you could put them all together, and it had all of the Midnight Suns on that as part of the image. So I have one of these unbagged, but the one that's in my actual collection is still polybagged. I know people say, well, take them out of the polybags because the polybags aren't very good for them, but honestly, I've had other copies of these Midnight Suns books that were still polybagged after all these years, and I unbagged them because I wanted the poster, and the books were still fine. They were just perfectly fine. But the series, he, with his run-in with Ghost Rider, he decided that, up until that point when he was getting blood from his victims, it was just sort of at random. Although he did have a conscience, he didn't like hurting innocent people. But after his run-in with Ghost Rider, who helped save a semi-cure of him, that he had created for himself. He decided that, and he made the oath to Ghost Rider that if he had to drink blood, then it was going to be the blood of the guilty, no longer the blood of the innocent. To which Ghost Rider responded, "Well, make sure you stick to that, because if you don't, you and I are going to have a problem." And so then began his run as a very much an anti-hero. He also gained the ability in this series to hypnotize people, which is kind of weird. And his ability to fly was kind of explained. You know, he had like a mental ability or something like that. I don't remember the specifics on it, but I do remember the first couple of covers of this series were really good. Some really good stuff there. You know, of course, Spider-Man had to show up after the Midnight Suns event. They had to create some new villains for him, like the Basilisk. The other thing that was really interesting about this was during the Midnight Suns, Lilith had tainted his cure, but putting some of her blood in there, if I remember right. So when he injected it into himself, he did mutate further and became more vampiric and, kind of lost control of himself a little bit. But he would eventually, I think, as the series progressed, he would eventually separate the Lilin part of him, and that became a completely different character, if I remember right. It's been forever since I've read this book, but I do like looking at the covers. There's some great covers. Oh, there we go. Morbius drinks drug-tainted blood and gets sucked down into a nightmare. Some interesting stuff there. And then he deals with Nightmare. So, there he is. So, this was the embodiment of the Lilin portion of Morbius. I can't remember what the character's name was, though. It seems like they say it in the cover at some point. There's a crossover with the Night Stalkers, another Midnight Suns mainstay. And then we have the second Midnight Suns crossover, the Midnight Massacre. And see, it looks like an envelope there. This was when Blade would read a page of the Darkhold, one of the pages from the Book of Sins, in an attempt to eradicate all supernatural entities from the world. And he became Switchblade and started killing them off himself. And the really creepy thing was, as he was killing all these other characters off, he would gain their powers and abilities and became a really messed up looking character. Man, it was crazy. But eventually, he was saved, and he became Blade again, and all the other characters came back to life because comic books. And although this isn't one of the best looking covers, it still is one of my favorites. Morbius and Ghost Rider. Then we had the third and final Midnight Suns crossover, the Siege of Darkness. This was a 17-issue run that ran through all the books and even brought Doctor Strange into it. And so let's see, Doctor Strange was added to it. Marvel Comics Presents was part of this, and it wrapped up in Midnight Suns Unlimited. So the first round, now the covers were like this. We had sort of a black cover with a sort of a weird imposed image on the front of it. The second cover would have these blood, plain backgrounds with blood. And as the story progressed, the blood would go down further and further and further on the cover until you get to Midnight Suns Unlimited, where it's an all-red cover. And there's just a random appearance of Deathlock because, Deathlock. I'm not sure who that is down there that he's got, but, it is what it is. And here's sort of like he's trying to... I think this was the issue. If you look at the cover there at his hair, he goes to Wolverine's hairstylist, and he's very upset about it. Then there was this cover. Now one of my favorites. And Wrath was the guy's name. That one has some cards in it or something. There's some trading cards in there. Marvel used to do that back in the day. This was a favorite cover of mine. Just, Spider-Man in the background like that with the black instead of the red. And they continued with the Midnight Suns dagger trade dress for a little bit longer. And eventually that would go away. This right here was the last of... for me, it was the last of the the pretty good run of Morbius. Starting with issue 25, things would get kind of weird. They brought in a new artist, got the first issue of a dark new era, but they brought in the artist, and no disrespect to her talents and abilities, but she was working on, Marvel had a series called Barbie Fashion at the time. And they decided that this girl, this gal who's working on Barbie Fashion would be a good fit for Morbius the Living Vampire. And it didn't quite work out that well. So, and honestly, this is the cover that's coming up is one of my least favorite. But honestly, I think what Marvel used to do back in these days is they would put, artists on there. It looks like a goblin dog there. They would put artists on these books specifically to get readers to stop reading them. And you always felt bad for the artists because, they're probably doing their best to cross over into another character, into, another series. But, I think sometimes that Marvel would put artists on books in hopes of driving the sales down further so that they could cancel the book. And then that's what happened. This is the final issue of the first ongoing Morbius series. Now, since then, he's had other books from the Marvel Now. I grabbed the first issue and was done with it after that. And then most recently, a Morbius the Living Vampire, which I stuck with this one for a couple of issues because Kyle Holtz was doing the covers, and I love these covers. This cover was amazing, although I didn't understand the bat wings. But I don't know why I don't have the Holtz cover for this, but I stuck with this a little bit longer. But, other than, some of the covers looking pretty cool, the story was pretty forgetful. I don't really remember anything that happened in this book. Because, it just... The only reason why they did this book was because they had a movie coming out for it. And then when the movie was delayed and pushed back, the book just kind of faded away. I don't think they ever actually announced that the last issue was the final issue. They just put it out and then walked away from it. There was also a reprint series. They did Morbius Revisited. This was probably because they did a Ghost Rider, original Ghost Rider Rides Again, and then the original Ghost Rider, which were two different reprint series of the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider series, and they were received pretty well. So when at the height of the series, of his original ongoing series run, they decided to do a reprints mini-series, some of his early stuff. And I don't have all of them. I think I've got like 3 of them. Some good covers. So I've been meaning to try to get the rest of these. It's just a matter of getting around to doing it. And I love that cover too. And that is it. A nice, short, and sweet full run Friday this week. And that is it. As I said, it's a short video this week. Morbius had a good run as far as those original ongoing series go, and went for 32 issues, which is not a bad run for that kind of a character. He's always been portrayed as sort of a villain, or just sort of like a villain of the week type character back in the day. So for him to have his own ongoing series, especially one that lasted a couple of years like that one, that went almost 3 years, it's pretty impressive. But ever since then, it seems like they really don't know what to do with the character. Sort of like Man-Thing and Howard the Duck. These are great characters and great concepts, but for some reason, Marvel has no idea what to do with them. The stuff they've been doing with Man-Thing and Howard the Duck lately is disgusting to me personally. My own personal opinion. It's disgusting what they're doing with these characters, because it's like they have some talented writers working on them, but those writers just don't seem to know what to do with these characters. Same with Morbius. It's like he's a really great character, but it's like nobody really knows what to do with him. My personal opinion and my suggestion would be with a character like Morbius, if they want to do something more with him, as far as like a solo standalone thing, don't toss him into an ongoing series. Give him a mini-series. Do like what they're doing with Darkhawk, the new Darkhawk. Just kind of give him a mini-series, reintroduce him to a new batch of readers, a new batch of fans, and see where it goes from there. If it's a success, then you can extend that miniseries into an ongoing. Maybe tack on a couple more issues or whatever. But he's a great character, but I don't think he's one that could really in today's market, sustain his own ongoing, long-running series. So I think, mini-series, one-shots, maybe backup stories, might not be a bad idea for him. So, but that's it. That's what I've got this week. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking it out. Morbius the Living Vampire. Gotta love the guy. He's actually gone through a lot of hell. If you read his full saga, the guy's gone through it, and I'm surprised he hasn't lost his mind completely and totally. But great character, great look, and that's it. So thank you for tuning in once again. Yeah, thank you again for tuning in. There you go. And of course, if you enjoy what I'm doing, even when I'm messing up my words, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification button so you know I've got a new video coming out. I do them. I'm doing Monday, Thursday, and Friday throughout the month of October. In the month of November, I may be cutting back on some of those. Might alternate the Mondays and Fridays. I'm not sure yet. We'll see what I can do. See what I can get organized in my collection here. But again, like, comment, subscribe. Thank you for my new subscribers that are checking these videos out. I really appreciate it. You got me at 160 subscribers as of today, which is awesome. 40 away from 200. I'm real excited about hitting 200. We'll see if maybe we can do something special at that point. I'm not sure yet, but thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see everybody on Monday with a mini Monday. Not quite sure what I'm going to do yet. There's a mini series that's buried in that collection somewhere called Nightside that I've been thinking about for a while. It's an old Marvel series when they were trying to do some horror books. I think it came out about the same time that Bloodstone came out. But I may reread that one and check that one out. I don't know. We'll see. So I'll see everybody on Monday for Mini Mondays. It's going to be a horror-themed comic book, whatever it's going to be. So everybody have a great weekend. Like, comment, subscribe, share, notification button, all that fun stuff. Have a great one.